all the Revit basics, how to detail, how to place a door or wall, and the general user interface, we can do some more sophisticated topics. The first topic would be about how to model with parameter. And the first question you always will have is, how detailed is, for example, my door supposed to be, and what kind of information do I need to add? This big term called the level of detail. And the level of detail essentially consists of two subtopics. The first one is the level of geometry. And the level of geometry tells you how detailed your 3D object is supposed to be in different stages. So the level of geometry usually consists of 5 levels, 100 to 500. They might differ in between. There might be something like 350, as you can see in this example, but there might also be like 300, 400, 500. It depends on your client. And essentially what this level of geometry tells you is in the level of 100, which is, you could relate it to, let's say, the schematic design maybe. You just draw a wall without any openings, for example. Whereas in a later stage, let's say during the construction, your client will wants to see a lot of more details on your wall. They want to see an opening, they maybe want to see the material. It really depends. The second subtopic is the level of information. And the level of information is more about, as the name says, the information itself. Which information do you need to add to your model and more specific to your object? A wall, a door, a window, a slab, whatever. So again, same idea behind it. You have different stages, 1 to 500. And in every stage, there will be certain information determined. So for example, on a level 300, they want to see for a wall, the area, the height, the material. Whereas for a door, for example, they need to know the frame type, the costs, the number, whatever. This is determined all by the level of information. And now the question is how to get that information into your objects. And in Revit, you usually use parameters for that. And there are different types of parameters: length, integer, number, currency, density, text, boolean. That are types of parameters. But don't worry, you usually don't need to know all of them. Usually you just need 4 of them: length, material, text, and boolean. And you can distinguish those 4 parameters by, are they geometric information or are they non-geometric information? If they are geometric information, like length and material, you usually use a type parameter. Don't confuse it with a type of parameter. Type of parameter is length, material, and so on and so forth. A non-geometric information, like text or boolean, is usually defined by an instance parameter. So again, what is type parameter and what is an instance parameter? Type parameter, geometric information are usually dimensions. So therefore you use a type parameter. You create a different type for each of your objects, like a door has different types, and every type is defined by type parameters. And the instance is that very door you place in your model, that one specific door which might have a different opening direction or a different door number. So those individual attributes are defined by an instance parameter. More on that right now. Okay, so let's create a cool looking family with some cool looking parameter, and therefore I thought I'm going to show you how to create that pool area over here. So let's jump into our level 1 floor plan, and the first thing we need to do is we need to have a cutout of our slab, and kinda hard to select that slab right now with our image underlying it. So what I'm going to do is I select multiple elements and use that filter. And in the filter, I can select my floor. I just uncheck views and raster images, click on OK. And now I have my floor selected. And now I can go to edit boundary. And to create that cutout, it's quite simple. I just select as a drawing option my rectangle and sketch it from that corner right to the bottom left corner. That's it. Click on OK. Let's check it out in 3D. And now we have a cutout. Okay, next part is how to create that pool. And therefore we'll create a new family. And to create a new family, I just click on File, click on New, and say Family. Now Revit wants me to tell it what kind of family I want to create, what kind of category do I need. And a pool area, what is a pool? I would say it's something generic. So I just go and look for some generic templates. And here it says metric generic model, which is completely fine. And I click on open. After some loading, now we are in the family editor. And the family editor looks more or less like a project, but with less views in here and less or different options, what I say. Right now we are in the reference level, which is level 1, we could say, or floor plan level. And what I want to do is, first off, I want to create the water. And the pool is just a rectangle. So what I need to do is I create an extrusion for it in my floor plan. Click on extrusion and draw a rectangle. Just really sketchy for the start. And say OK. What I also want to do is I want to add some material. I want to add water. So I still have selected my extrusion, and I just go here to material and click on that three dots. In my material browser, now I can look for water. Let's see if we already have one here. No, there's no water, but in the library beneath it. So we can just double click on it, add it to our library. Not double clicking, add material to document might be better. Now we have added that material to our document. And we could work on the pattern right now and so on and so forth, but let's skip that for the moment. I just check out the appearance, which looks fine. Say OK. And now this is water. Let's load it into our project. We need to save that family first with a different name. So we say save as family. I call it pool. Save. Load into project. And now I can place my newly created pool into my pool area, somewhere here. And we immediately see, okay, the size is a bit off, probably the height as well. And there's no way we could adjust that length, width, height in the project in our pavilion. See, there's no command, no parameter for it. So what we need to do is we need to add those parameters. And we do add those parameters in the family editor. So I just go back to my editor, edit family. And I will create now two parameters, the length and the width. And I find it easier and more relatable to create reference planes for it as first. So a reference plane is just a straight line where I can, for example, attach the geometry to. So if I drag that arrow over here, you see that lock. And once I lock it, I can control my geometry by those reference lines. See? again, if I move it, the geometry will update accordingly. So we'll do the same on the other side. Alright. That crosshair one in the middle is our reference, our axis. So this is our middle point of our object, which means we need to equal the distance for those two reference lines to that axis in the middle. And we do so by using a dimension. So just select that reference line, and that reference line, place it somewhere, and now with that EQ command, I have equal distances. So once I would move that reference line over here, it will always keep the distance. So the axis is always the axis. And now I can add another parameter, or I can add a parameter, and adding a parameter I will also do by using a dimension. But only this time I reference the two exterior sides. So now I have a dimension which says 5600 millimeter, and to add a parameter to it, I select the dimension and say create parameter. And as I told you in the very beginning, this now is a dimension. This as a geometric information. So therefore I need a type parameter, which is that one, type. And I call it type parameter. I call it width. And you see, here's the type of parameter, which is the length. So dimensions always usually only work with length type of parameters. The rest is fine for the moment. I just click on OK. And now I've created a parameter which is called width. Now I load my family back to my project, to my pavilion, and let's check out if it works. I want to override the existing version. It has already updated. I select now that that pool, and my type parameters I will find under edit type. And here is width. I now say, let's just try it out and say it's 8 meters. Click on OK, and now it has been updated. It has been updated. Let's measure real quick what the actual size of our pool area is. And it is 8.7 and something. So I just type in 8.7 as a width. Let's align it by using our align tool. Align that pool to that line, and now it's fine. I could lock it, but I would not recommend it in this case. So what we still need to do is add another parameter for the length, which is same workflow again, edit family. Create two reference planes, and I create reference plane, one on the left and one on the right. Use a dimension to equal the distance to the axis. Click on OK and load it into my project. Let's measure real quick again the length of our pool area, and it's 19.5. Select that pool, go to edit type, and type into the length parameter 19.5. And we see it has not updated. Let's check out what went wrong. You could see it has not updated because I forgot to attach the geometry to my reference. So just drag it over here and lock it. Okay, load it into the project. Align it to the right. And if we check it out in 3D, here's our pool, which is just some water right now. Let's change the visualization style. And we go to realistic. And you can see it looks kind of like water. At least it's bluish. The height is not correct in the moment. You can see that. So we need to offset it quite a bit. So, or probably still a lot more, but doesn't really matter for the moment. So this right now would be our pool, or at least some sort of water area. But we want to have a real pool with walls, a floor, maybe a slope, maybe a ladder. So let's check it out. Back to our family editor and let's add that surrounding walls and a slab. And therefore again, I will add some reference planes. No, I don't want to save my projects. And I just add one here and over there. And on top and below. So this defines my exterior. And again, same workflow. I will use a dimension to set an offset from, let's try it from for this reference line. And for that reference. And for that reference. Where is it? Here. And for that reference. Okay. So what I want to have is the exact same amount of distance from the water area to my, I don't know what it's called. The thickness of the walls are supposed to have all the same distance. So what I'm going to do is I select all those 4 dimensions and I will create a parameter for it. And again, this is an geometric information, so it's a type parameter, and I will call it wall thickness. And if I want to adjust it within that family editor, I can just go here to my properties and I can just say wall thickness is something like, let's make it 300 millimeter. Alright, so this kind of works. Let me change real quick the scale. Okay, I want 20, let's make it 1 to 50. Okay, so now let's create another extrusion. And again, I will create a rectangle, but now I will snap onto my exterior from here to there. Lock it. And we'll create another cutout in the same very sketch mode and also lock that one. And say it's fine. Okay. Let's go to 3D mode. Let's go to 3D mode. Check it out. Okay, so this is my exterior and it's only like 250 millimeters, and let's extend that to be let's make it 2000 millimeters, so 2 meter, and I need to say yeah, minus 2000 in this case. This is where my extrusion starts. And what I also want to do, I want to make a parameter out of it. And this now is a bit different than to work with a dimension. If I would have a dimension, I would select the dimension and say add parameter. In this case, you see that tiny button over here, and you can associate a parameter to that value over here. So I just click on it and I say create a new parameter. And this parameter I will call depth. Again, geometric, so it's a type parameter, and say okay and okay. So now this is a parameter as well. And yeah, let's load it first into our project. And go to our 3D mode. And yeah, this looks kind of good. Okay, but what if we want to have a slope in here? It's not just like a plain pool area. We want to have it in this area like 1 meter of depth and over here 2 meter. So we need to add some sort of angle to it or some sort of slope. We can do that by creating a section over here, go to view, and just add a sloped element to it. And again, I will use an extrusion. And now we need to pick our reference plane or our work plane. And in this case, it's front back. So that Revit knows on which plane is that geometry we are about to create placed. So okay. And now we enter sketch mode again. And now we will create my slope. So therefore I just snap it from that corner to that corner. And from here to there. And now I have my angle over here. And what I need to do first is I still need to align those boundaries to my ref planes. So third one goes to here, snap. And I don't have a ref plane over here, so I just use the bottom of my geometry in this case. Okay. And now I will add an angular dimension to get a parameter for my angle. So angular dimension, and what I want to do is I want to add that angular dimension over here. So this will define my angle. And again, same workflow, I just select that dimension and say add parameter. And I will call that parameter angle. And as you can see here, this type of parameter is an angle, and it's a type parameter because it's a geometric information. Don't get confused. Okay. So now this seems fine. Let's try it out if it will actually work. Let me go to the 3D mode first to see how it looks like. And as you can see, this is now just some sort of triangle. We need to align it to our exterior. So again, I just use align, it's the easiest way. Align it to that over there and to that side over there. and the rest should be fine. And in order to make it to be one geometry, one piece of geometry, instead of having the walls and the slab to be two different geometries, I need to join them. So I just click on it and say join geometry. Join that with that. And then it appears to be just one big geometry. Okay, let's change it real quick to wireframe in order to see if the angle will work, the angular parameter. So go to type properties and then change the value to be, let's say 2. Yeah, this looks pretty good. What will happen if I type in 10? Okay, I think 5 looks good. Apply 5, and this is fine. Okay, what I also want to do is my walls and my slabs still don't have a material associated, and what I want to do is, instead of just like with the water material to just add a material on here, I want to do a parameter out of it. So again, let's select the geometry, and instead of typing or clicking on those three dots, I will click on that button and I say add parameter and make this one, how do we call it, parameter? It's called my material or wall material. Okay. The same for the slab. And as you can see, since we joined the geometry, we have also joined the parameter. So just need to do it once. I'll load it back to my project. And let's check it out in 3D. Let me close real quick some windows over here. And this looks pretty good. So we want still to add a material, and I select that pool, and I will have my material parameter under edit type, then there's a type parameter. And now you see here wall material. Now it's the same workflow. Click on those 3 dots and I choose something like concrete or tiles or something I could use. Not cast in place, but it's precast. And now, as you can see, we have a precast concrete slapped onto our pool area. Now I told you a lot about type parameters, but there were also the instance parameters, and now where's the difference actually? I already told you type parameters always go with a type, so different dimensions for example, and instance parameters always go for that very instance we have placed. So for example, if I choose that pool area or that pool, it might have a different number than if I just copy that pool somewhere over here, than this pool. So in order to distinguish those two pools by its number, we need to add an instance parameter. And therefore again, we go to edit family, and I will add another parameter, and I will just go to family types, say new parameter, and I call that one just call it pool number. And this parameter is not a length, it's a number, or we could also use a text, or we could also use an integer. It's more or less all the same. What I want to do is I want to use an integer. So I use an integer, and this instance parameter, because it has a different value for each of those placed pools. Say okay, and load into our project. So now I can select that pool, and I can say an instance parameter you will always find under the instance properties. over here, whereas type parameters are within the type. So pool number, and an integer, I can just click on that arrow and it will define now 5 and whole numbers. And this one still has a 0. I could say this has number 1. So that's the difference between type parameter and an instance parameter. If I change the type parameter, for example, for our, let's change it for the width and make it 5 meters. See, both pools have changed because they are of the same type. If I want to have different pools with different dimensions, I need to duplicate the type. Duplicate, call it pool 2, it's fine. And pool 2 has a width of 10 meters. So you can see pool number 2 is 10 meters in its width, whereas pool number 1 has 5 meters. Okay, so let me delete that one real quick. And we put that back to 8.7. All right. Last thing I want to show you was the Boolean. And the Boolean, again, we go back to our family editor. And I'm going to real quick create jump board, I guess it's called. So again, I will use again an extrusion, and I just create real quick a jump board somewhere here. Doesn't really matter. And I say okay, and let's check it out in 3D. So this jump board needs to be a bit higher. Let's make it 700, and this will make 600. So this is now our jump board, and I will give it a Boolean, a visibility parameter. So I want to determine within my project, does this pool area have a jump board or jumping board or what it's called, or not, just by defining if it's visible or not visible. And we have a visibility. Yeah, check over here. So I could just uncheck it, and then it will be invisible in the project, or I just check it. Or if I want to have it as a parameter and control it within the project, I just press that button and add a parameter. And I call that parameter jump board. And since this is a non-geometric information, it's an instance. And type of parameter is yes, no, Boolean in this case. Say okay, okay, and reload it back to our project. And now, if I select our pool and I will say it has no jump board, it's invisible. See, rather easy. The Barcelona Pavilion does not have a jump board, so we just uncheck it and it's fine then. A really powerful tool to check your information you have created is to use schedules. And to create a schedule, I can just go to my project browser and right click on schedule, and I will create a new schedule, quantities. And now Revit asks us what kind of category do we want to have a schedule for, and we want to have some for what was it called? Generic models for our pool. So I just go to generic model, because this was a category we have chosen, and we have generic model. I can give it a name. I just call it pool information and say okay. And now I need to determine which kind of information do I want to see. So these are all our parameters we have within our category generic model. And what I want to have is for sure I want to have the type. Just double click. And I want to have something like the count. How many pools do we have? And if you click on OK, you can see we have one pool, count 1 of that type, just pool. And it costs nothing yet, but we could type in 5,000. And we could go back to .3D. And now we would see in the edit type the costs are 5,000, used, doors, whatever. So it's always a combination. So by pressing WT on the keyboard, we can put them side to side. I can just click in here and within our schedule, and our pool will be selected. And I can check out the information in here. I can change the values in here. I can do whatever I want to. So I could also just say this is $5,000, and I could copy real quick another pool, and you can see it will immediately pop up within our schedule, our pool information. If I change the type to pool number 2, to pool number 2, you will see we have one type of pool and another type of pool 2, and one costs $5,000 and the other one is, let's say, for free. What we don't see right now is the information for our widths and lengths and angle and depths and so on. And the reason behind that is that the parameters we have created are not shared parameters. So this means if we want to see those parameters within our schedule, we need to create shared parameters, which is a bit different, but not too much. So I just delete that one real quick. I select again our pool and go to Edit Family. And what we need to do is, instead of using those newly created parameters, we just exchange that parameter here to be a shared parameter. So we select that parameter width and go to Edit Parameter. And as you can see here, we don't use a family parameter, which cannot appear in schedule.txt. We use a shared parameter. We just click in here and now we say select, go to edit, and in here we go to whatever your BIM manager has set up already. It can be the name of your company, it can be some other parameter group. In this case, it's just like my parameter group, and I choose here the parameter width. I just select it. If it's not there yet, we could go to new parameter and create a new one. Let's say length, for example. Okay, so we just click on OK, and back in that window, we can now choose our parameter, which is width. Say OK, OK, and now we have exchanged it to be a shared parameter. Click on OK, and now I just load it back into our project. And now the magic that has happened is we can add that parameter to our schedule. So I just go into our schedule, click on fields, and now we will find the parameter width, which we didn't have before. And OK. And now you see the width has appeared. And we could change it in here if we want to. See? Same workflow. Okay, so again, if you want to export or to see your parameters within a schedule, you need to work with shared parameters. Yeah, if you just want to have an easier way of creating your elements, you just create a family parameter, which is much quicker. We were talking about the level of geometry. And if I select one of those walls, for example, you just see in here they are generic 450 millimeters. which would apply to be a really early stage of development. So therefore it would be something like a level of detail or level of geometry 100. But if your client demands something higher, like 300, you need to have more geometry in there, more information. So this would be not sufficient. And in order to respond to our client's demand, we just select that wall and we will add some more layers to it to get it more detailed. So what I want to do is I will add an installation, for example. So again, I just select that wall and I go to edit type, and to edit or to add more layers to our wall, or the same goes for our floors, we just go to structure and click on edit. And in here you will find our different layers for our wall. You can see on the top the exterior side and on the bottom the interior side. Right now our wall just consists of one layer, which even has a material associated yet. So what we're going to do first is we are going to add a material to that layer, to our structural layer. We just click on the 3 dots over here and we say this is a concrete cast in place. And it has a thickness 450 millimeter, 45 centimeter is a bit much. Let's switch it to be 25. And now let's add another layer, which is the insulation. We just click on insert and move it up to be outside of our core boundary. So first thing, we're going to change the function. It's not a structural layer, it's a thermal layer. And that thermal layer is defined by insulation. So let's just look for insulation. Let's see if we have some here. Insulation. Yeah, here's something. EIFS exterior insulation. And the insulation has a thickness of, let's say, 18 centimeters. And what I also want to have, I want to have a finish. So again, I'll insert another layer. This one right now has the function finish. And let's look out for some stucco. Plaster. Let's use this one is fine. We add it to our library and says plaster. And this one has a thickness of, let's say, 2 centimeters. Alright. The rest is fine. Say OK. And what we need to do is we should rename it to be not generic, but to be CC for concrete, for insulation, and plaster for plaster, PL for plaster. And it has an overall thickness of, what was it again? We can see the width over here, which is 45 centimeters. So we just type in again 450. I like to do it in millimeters, so 450 millimeter, and OK. So now the material has updated. Let me close real quick our pool information. We don't need it anymore. And let's go to our level 1. And if we zoom in and change, this is really important, if we change our level of detail to fine, you will see our layers. So in here we have concrete, we have insulation, and we'll send here our plaster. So this now has a higher level of geometry as it might have been demanded by your client. Same workflow goes for the floor. Let's just do it real quick. We select our floor, go to edit type. I want to duplicate it first, and I don't know, I just call it CC again, underline, and I don't know, some build up. I don't know yet. Click on OK. And go to edit type. And again, I just say here, this is concrete. Custom place. And this one right now, what I would recommend is to create your finished floor and your structural floor in two separate floor types. So this one first is our structural floor, so we just leave it as it is. We just change the thickness from 40 centimeters to 25. Say OK. We rename it to be CC 250 millimeter and OK. And now let's add a build-up, which is its own separate floor, floor object. And what I want to do is I just use that one and I copy it. And I do it real easy. Just take a look from the side, click on copy, and I copy it from here to the one up. And now we go to edit type, duplicate it, and we call this one right now build up. Okay, edit. And now we don't have a structural or not a concrete layer anymore. I want to have an insulation first. So I just choose my insulation. Into widget structure, I have no idea. I just use widget. Widget insulation, which has a thickness of 25 centimeters, and it's not structure. It's important because of its joints. It's it's a thermal layer. And now let's add again more layers to it. The next one is a substrate. And the substrate is, let's check out what we have in here. Okay, since I want to have tiles, I need to have screed first, so I just look for screed. If we have it in a library, and there we have something, we just add it. Okay, so we just use screed, that one. And this one has a thickness of, again, let's say 2 centimeters. And another layer, which is now our finish, which are tiles. Let's look for tiles. Yeah, this seems fine, 600 by 600. And they have a thickness of 0.15. And that's fine enough. We could add a membrane layer if we want to. Yeah, let's just try it. Up. Membrane. And we need to have some sort of foil. And this one, if you choose a membrane layer doesn't have any thickness. Okay, so click on OK. And alright, so our build-up now has 6 centimeters, so we need to change the offset to 0.6. And let's check it out real quick in our section. Just go to level 1 and I just move that section to here, to here. I go to view, change the detail level, and now you can see all of our layers. So here, this is what we don't want to have. It needs to be joined, therefore. So I just click on join. And as you can see, the build-up will be cut off because of the function, which you've seen before. Because if I go to edit type, edit, you can see the function structure has a higher hierarchy as a finish, for example. So the build-up will be cut off instead of the concrete, which is correct. So this looks pretty good already, and next up will be all about the visualization. How to render, how to change color, how to emphasize certain things in a scheme, for example. This we will check out in the next part.